Welcome to the Pizza Pod Party with Arthur Bavino and Alfred Schultz. On today's show,
host of the popular podcast, The Sporkful, Dan Pashman, is our guest. We have pizza news, and the pizza topic is the winking pizza chef.
Finally, we have ourselves a Chicago Pope. Welcome to the pizza party, pal. Pope, pal, Pope, pal.
Pope,
welcome.
Pepperoni. I'm Arthur. Who are you anyway? You can introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Alfred Schultz, but everyone in the world knows that, right?
I'm Arthur Bovino at NYC Best Pizza. I'm a New York-based author and editor who's been writing about America's best pizza since 2012, and I just use digital calipers to measure my slice from Joe's.
Don't know what any of that means, but were you so shocked about the American Pope, huh?
Oh my God, are you trying to break my news flow here? We've got this as a news item below. Are we starting as
no? Go for it. I don't want to. No spoiler alert, but that was pretty shocking.
Were you excited? I mean,
it was pretty surreal. I mean, it's surreal. I mean, it's almost like so many people are talking about it, but it's almost like it's weird. It's not a bigger deal almost because an American Pope is crazy to think about. I mean, we both grew up Catholic, right?
Yep.
And this is a big deal, and having it be like some dude from Chicago feels very strange.
Well, it feels like we're going to be talking about even more about religion over the coming years than ever before because of this. So there you go.
Politics and religion, my favorite topics at a dinner party. Let's do it up. Today we got a good one, per usual, very foodie one. But again, foodie. I don't think that word necessarily applies, but I'm lazy. So Dan Pashman is our guest. Sporkful. Sporkful is a podcast that I remember when they started.
Sporkful or the Sporkful?
The Sporkful, Sporkful. I was there at WNYC, and his old partner, who they sort of launched together, was sitting next to me, and they also he's like, "We're doing this sort of like food podcast," and I was like, "Good luck with that, losers!" And wow, so many years later, here he is, Dan Pashman, Sporkful. He and I sort of have done a lot of the same things in our career in terms of like worked at the same places. But, you know, this project, which started off as a project, it's become his livelihood. Very impressive stuff and inspiring, too. Awesome. So very cool. Yeah. Well, let's just get to that. And then, you know, as you know, we have news and a topic that I have no idea what that's about after this. So stick around.
it's the Pizza Pod Party special guest.
Dan Pashman is the 3-time James Beard Award-winning host of the very popular podcast, The Sporkful. He's the inventor of the new pasta-shaped cascatelli and is the author of 2014's Eat More Better and 2024's Anything's Possible. Dan Pashman joins us at the Pizza Pod Party.
Like I mentioned, we were both at SiriusXM at different times. We were both at WNYC at different times. So it's cool to see someone that sort of started off in a similar place go on and create this entity, this Sporkful.
Talk about the pizza saver. We get into that a little bit.
We talked about the pizza saver.
Plastic pizza saver. Yep.
Dan talked about his most controversial pizza takes. He became Arthur's therapist at one point, and we asked him about the sort of bro infestation of food media. So
yeah, that was good.
All of that coming right up right here on the Pizza Pod Party. Here's Dan Pashman. It's funny because we try to talk to at least on the surface, non-food types people. I don't want to use the word foodie, but like, you know, we try to, and then we discover their food attraction and how much they love food and their various opinions, highbrow, lowbrow, whatever. So like with you, it is we rarely have someone who talks about food for a living. So we were sort of at a loss as to how to start. But one thing I wanted to see, because you know,
we're going to talk about economics today, and
that's
also
cool. Yeah, that's cool.
See, it's all about
what's
the
your favorite movie?
curve.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to know, because you're in it, and you were someone who sort of wasn't in it, obviously it was always an interest to you, but you're in it, and you have been in it for so long now. I wanted to ask you, pizza-wise, how has your view and taste in pizza evolved since you've been in this line of work, running the Sporkful?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting because I'm not a trained chef. I just love to eat. I'm really more like a media, radio, podcast person who stumbled into food.
Those people are scum of the earth, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean?
Media people who stumbled into food.
Yeah, right? Maybe with a public radio background,
Right.
Sirius XM, kind of the worst of the worst, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, when I first started out doing this podcast, I sort of felt like it was kind of like a response to what I felt like was something missing in food media, which is the food media was so chefy. It was all about restaurants and recipes, and those things are not that interesting to me. I just really love to eat. So, but I was afraid that if I started a podcast all about eating, and if it became my job, that I would not love it anymore, or I would love it less. It would become work. And what I have found after 15 years of hosting the Sporkful is actually, in a lot of ways, the opposite has happened, which is that the more shows we've done, the more I've learned, the more I've eaten, the more different kinds of experiences that I've had, the more of an appreciation I get, the more my curiosity is piqued. And so the more interested and passionate I've become about food. As it goes for pizza, I would say I certainly have a better appreciation for all of the ingredients and kind of the subtle nuances of, like, 20 years ago, I probably would have been like, well, there's thin crust and there's deep dish, and now I'm kind of like, well, that's a little more complicated than that, and Sicilian. So I think I have a better understanding of some of the nuances. But I still have probably some pretty controversial opinions.
I mean, along the way, you've touched on a lot of the kind of, touchstone pizza topics. I mean, in 2014 and trolling, not necessarily trolling, but like maybe controversial topics. You advocated for folding a slice of pizza inside out in 2014.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure.
I have done that, yes.
You've tackled pizza lines with Ed Levine at DeFara. In 2024, last year, you debated whether East Coast pizza is really better with Melissa McCart. And then, with Anything's Possible, you've got the pasta pizza. I think a few weeks ago, even just you were asking, is a dollar slice really kind of a snack? So I'm wondering, are there any pizza topics you haven't yet tackled that you kind of really want to dig into?
Yes, there's one in particular I have in mind. And you're right, Arthur, that pizza has been something we've covered a lot on the Sporkful. It's not something I get tired of. I grew up in New Jersey, in the New York City suburbs, and Italian food culture is so much a part of New Jersey. To me, New Jersey is like Italy West. Even though I'm not Italian, like we always grew up a lot of pizza. I eat a lot of pizza today. And so I never get tired of talking about it or eating it. We did an episode a couple weeks ago where I went with Scott Wiener on Scott's Pizza Tours. We did a whole episode about that, and this is something Scott and I were talking about, and that I've always been interested in, which is the what's the right word for it? Like the little plastic table. It looks like a little miniature table. Pizza topper, thank you. The thing that holds up the old-fashioned pizza boxes. Nowadays, more and more pizza boxes are corrugated cardboard, so they're stronger, so they don't need that. But back in the day, when the pizza boxes were very thin, they were like bakery boxes, you needed the pizza topper. Well, the pizza topper, as you two probably know, was patented by a woman named Carmelo Vitali, who lived on Long Island, I believe in like 1985 or something. And she, I believe, has died. But like there have been a couple of attempts to track her down or track her family down and get the details on the story of like, who was she? How did she invent this thing? Who owns the patent now? Does anybody own it? The story behind it, the business of it, the discovery of it, its role in pizza culture. I'm fascinated by the pizza the pizza topper thing.
I have to self-correct. It's the pizza saver. Sorry, pizza topper.
Thank you.
I conflated in my head when I was talking with Scott recently about the condiments that he calls the condiments at the pizzeria. So that's my fault. My bad. I put that in your head.
All right. So it's the pizza saver.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, the pizza saver. And like to me, the pizza saver is like it's just this like very fun invention. I remember from my childhood, especially when like I said, when the boxes used to be thinner. And I'm just very, very curious to know what is the story with Carmelo Vitali and the pizza saver.
Great, I love it. It's a good one.
Do you know, Arthur? Can you tell me?
I have not. I've gone down so many pizza rabbit holes at this point in my life. That's one that I have not.
Really?
I have not tugged on that story.
Okay.
And I'm happy to reveal the holes in my game. It happens for sure. I have not gone down that rabbit hole.
Okay. All right. Someday.
Growing up, though, in New Jersey, you called it America's Italy, and I currently live in New Jersey right now. But I'm wondering, what were your go-to type of spots, and was it the chain route, or was it sort of a local situation?
Local situation. The earliest pizzeria that I remember being our go-to place was called Phil's, and it was right next to I think originally it was a Grand Union supermarket that became an A&P, I want to say. It was in a strip mall in Montvale, New Jersey, next town over from where I grew up in northern New Jersey. And we would go to Phil's, and they had those like Formica booths and the shakers on the table. It was very, there was nothing remarkable about it. A very classic New York metro area suburban pizzeria, slices in the glass case, whole pies to order. And then at a certain point, that place changed ownership, and it was renamed Sorrento, but it was the same location. And so we switched to Sorrento Pizza. But I don't remember the pizza being, I remember always liking it, but I don't remember it being remarkable. It was like a pretty thick, doughy crust, sauce and cheese, kind of like exactly what you'd expect from a right down the middle suburban pizzeria.
I know you also went to Tufts, and Boston. The Boston area has a complicated relationship with pizza, at least from my standpoint, because we've had a lot of guests from the area, and there's the opinions about New England and Boston pizza are all over the place. Some people are disgusted. Some people think it's super underrated. Did you have? I mean, and college is a weird time for pizza because you're often getting the cheapest option there, so you don't have the most sophisticated palate to make comparisons. But what did you think about the Boston area pizza in Somerville?
I mean, I don't remember exploring it a great deal. I ate a lot of chicken parm calzones.
Very good.
I certainly ate my share of pizza, but I don't remember it being exceptional.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to believe even today that the pizza in Boston is on average better than the pizza in the New York area.
Yeah.
And I say that as great. Yes, I'm from the New York area, but like I'm not one of these like New York is better at everything types. Like there's things that New York doesn't do very well. There's things I don't like about New York, and I'm not afraid to say it. But like when it comes to pizza, we make really good pizza. Yeah.
It's just the volume, too. It's just like the idea of it being on every single corner is just such a cool thing and being so embedded in the culture. And we talk about this a lot about how, cities have evolved, but that was a unique thing. No other cities had that idea of like the pizza parlor or pizza slice joint everywhere. You can't walk 3 blocks without one.
There's no other city in America that I know of that has pizzerias like New York.
Yeah.
And I live in a suburb on Long Island now.
Yeah.
It's a ways outside the city. It's a small town in between 2 medium-sized towns. And even in our small town, on our quote-unquote Broadway, which is like 2 blocks of stores, there's 3 pizzerias. And if you go a mile farther down, there's 2 more. I mean, there are probably 10 pizzerias within 3 miles of my house.
Yeah, same. And do you think that the Long Island pizza scene compares with New Jersey?
I mean, I don't know that anything on Long Island can truly compare with New Jersey.
Hey, yo, listen here.
Arthur is from there. He's from Long Island.
I think there's a lot of good grandma pizza out on Long Island that doesn't get the due that it gets.
Where should I go, Arthur? Tell me.
You definitely got to go. I mean, if you haven't hit on the classic 3 places, I would definitely start there, which is going to Umberto's, going to King Umberto, and going to Da Angela, where Albert Giangrande. And those are kind of like the 3 places that I always really associate with the style, much more so than any place in Manhattan, which I feel like picked up on the trend long after they were doing it.
I need a clarification here because there's a number of pizzerias that call themselves Umberto.
Yeah.
There's one that's like pretty close to Queens, right?
Yeah.
That's King Umberto?
There's King Umberto is in Elmont, I'm pretty sure. Umberto's is in New Hyde Park. And then Da Angelo's not far away. I can't remember exactly which town that it's in. There also used to be Prince Umberto's, to confuse things any further. I'm sure if we keep diving into this, there were,
this is why I don't like monarchies.
Other royal positions associated with Umberto's. Queen Umberto, Princess Umberto. I'm not aware of, but those are the places that I know. Yeah.
So there's the Umberto in New Hyde Park, and then there's a King Umberto. Where's that one?
That one's in Elmont.
Okay.
Where I hope our live fact checkers, Alfred, you have them behind the scenes, feeding me in information in case I mess any of this up.
Our staff of 10 are just playing video games right now, so I don't know what they're doing.
Because I have twice attempted to go to an Umberto pizzeria on Long Island, only to arrive and find out that it's not one of the canonical Umbertos.
Yeah, these are the ones. These are ones you got to go to. I mean, the one that I love the most is King Umberto's, where Giovanni Cesarano is the man behind the counter you got to talk to. And they're doing all kinds of great stuff. They're expanding that restaurant. I'm not on their payroll, but that's the place that I would point to.
I will shout out a place called, it should be pronounced Lucello, although everyone calls it Lucello, L'Uccello. It's owned and run by a friend of mine, full disclosure, Chef Jimmy Chinnis, who also has a restaurant called Swallow, like the bird swallow, that he used to have in Huntington and Montauk. He closed those and opened one in Greenlawn, and now he opened a pizzeria across the street, and that is my favorite pizza. All the places you just cited are all kind of like in the part of Long Island near Queens.
Yeah. Well, you're near
where I live is in a whole other universe.
Yeah, you're closer to Huntington, right?
Yes,
I mean, okay.
Yes, I live in Huntington.
So that's a segue for me for the next pizza question. Then I'm sure you've done this.
Are we going to talk about Little Vincent's?
Yeah, you've been to Little Vincent's and done the whole cold cheese slice. So what's your take on the cold cheese slice?
I am not a fan.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest, and because. Look, I think the people who really love that slice are people who kind of like spent their early to mid 20s in Huntington and were very drunk and went to. So we should tell you. So they take a slice of pizza, a normal slice of pizza that has the sauce and the cheese and everything. They put it in the oven to heat it up. They take it out and then they put cold shredded cheese on top.
Yep.
Now, if you eat that when you're very drunk, I'm sure it's delicious. Cheese is great. And so if you have a sort of sentimental attachment to it, then that I can understand. But the problem is that you put the cold cheese on the hot cheese, and what happens is you end up with a lot of room temperature cheese that's like half melted. So like it kind of melts in, but it's not sort of so hot anymore. And it's so much cheese that it cancels out whatever else is going on in the pizza. It's gloopy and gloppy. It's not hot. You can't taste the sauce. The crust falls apart. I don't know. Am I being too harsh, Arthur?
No, I mean, Dan, I hate you for putting me in a position of having to defend the cold cheese slice. But I would, because it's not like my thing. It's not like this is what I do. But I will say, in its defense, if one were going to make a defense of it, it is that maybe you're not eating it fast enough, because there shouldn't be enough time for anything to happen except for the cold cheese protecting your mouth, because you're drunk, you're right, from the molten hot pizza that's just come fresh from the oven. And it should just protect you and provide sustenance and joy. That is what I think the philosophical, the point of POV for people who would defend the cold slice would be.
Okay.
But I hate you for making me do that.
I want you to come out to Huntington. I'll take you to Lucello, and we'll have a pizza together there. Their margarita is excellent.
Love it.
I don't want it to get, because I know you mentioned you had controversial takes, and so let's just get to that. Let's just cut to that right now. What are some of your most controversial pizza takes?
Aside from not liking the cold cheese slice at Little Vincent,
that's a big one.
Probably my most controversial pizza take is this, which is, we all know that at its base level, the pizza has three components, right? Sauce, crust, cheese.
Yes.
Pizza aficionados put a ton of focus on the crust. You see these pictures on Instagram of the cross-section of the crust and the crumb, and they want to talk about how long it was proofed and the percentage of this and that. And yes, when I go to a really great pizzeria, can I tell that the crust is better? Do I love a light, thin, but still crispy, chewy crust? Can I tell that it has a great flavor to it? Yes, I can tell, but all fresh baked bread is good. Some may be better, but I don't know the first thing about baking, but I can buy a mix and put it in the oven. When it first comes out of the oven, it's amazing. So that's all good. And then cheese. Okay. Yes. Is it better to have a really great high quality fresh mozzarella, sliced like in a margarita? Is that better than some crappy shredded cheese with that coating they put on some of the shredded cheeses? Yes, it's better. But all melted cheese is good. I love all melted cheese. The sauce is the ingredient. If you ask most pizza aficionados between the sauce, the cheese, and the crust, what's the most important to get right? I'm telling you 99% will tell you the crust is most important. But I am here to say that the sauce is most important, because that is where you see the greatest spectrum. And that is the one of the three components that I have on a somewhat regular basis found to be bad. I never had a pizza where I was this crust is bad. Maybe it's better or worse, but it's never bad. I never had melted cheese that I was this melted cheese is bad. But I have had pizzas that were ruined by the sauce. And so the sauce is the most important of the three components.
Is there a famous pizzeria that you want to go on the record that you think their sauce is a problem?
I don't know that it's famous, but I can tell you should not order pizza at the cafeteria at Bryce Canyon National Park.
Now, that is fighting words. That place, we have a relationship with them, and I wish we're going to obviously edit that out because that is
Yeah, no, I'm
ridiculous.
taking them down.
It should be noted, though. I mean, you have written a whole entire book. I feel like this is like this comes out in the bio. So you have a vested interest in saying that about sauces, also, though. No, right? I mean, let's we have to all do our full disclosures.
That's fair. I mean, I did have this opinion before I wrote that book. The book is mostly pasta sauces, but I look, yes, if you want to say that I'm part of Big Sauce, Arthur,
We got a title for the episode. Well, let's talk about that for a second too, because obviously pasta is a big thing. You've talked a lot about it, and you are also the inventor of cascatelli, which is the pasta shape you invented to great fanfare. And so I have a pizza related question with that pasta. Especially in New York City right now in slice shops, you often will see a slice that has penne pasta on it. Would you ever want cascatelli on a pizza, or would that make you upset?
Oh.
It's hard for me to imagine a use of cascatelli that would make me upset. I'm really not, as much as I have strong opinions, especially as I get older, we all mellow with age. And it's kind of like...
I feel like I'm not, but yeah, go ahead.
Except Alfred.
It's tough out there.
Yeah. I just feel like, people, I don't want to yuck someone else's yum. If you want to put cascatelli, I think it would be good. Like, I do think, like this part, yes, I'm biased here, Arthur, I'll plead guilty. Like, yes, I think cascatelli is a very good pasta shape. So I think that it would be better if you're going to swap it in for any inferior shape, that's always going to improve the thing. So like penne, I don't particularly like. I don't think it's a very good shape. I think it's way overutilized. It doesn't actually really hold sauce. Even if it has ridges, the ridges don't do much. And everyone thinks that tube pasta shapes hold a lot of sauce, but I don't think they really do. Like, how many times have you bitten into a piece of penne or rigatoni and found like a ton of sauce inside? No, they're all hollow in the middle. And penne also has this annoying springiness that's like not quite springy enough to be really chewy. It's just springy enough to like not stay on the fork. So I find it to be a very annoying shape, and I feel like it's very hard to eat on top of a pizza. Whereas like cascatelli, I think it grips, so it would grip onto the pizza better.
How does that work though? Do you have to go like sell that idea to pizzerias? Like how did penne get involved with the pizza world?
Big penne.
Big penne. Yeah. Same my band. We're terrible.
Yeah. When I took my kids to Italy, I made the mistake of trying to explain to them, like, when there's a double consonant in Italian, it's a different word than a single consonant. And you really have to pronounce it like it's the same. So like, it's not penne, it's penne. You just say the two N's as if they're two separate letters. Penne.
Well, also in Italy, like there's one word that's used for like 5 different things in food, which also even drives the Italians crazy sometimes.
But I explain to my kids, so if you don't say penne and you just say penne, you're actually saying penis. So be careful. Don't say that. And they, of course,
well, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. Actually,
I thought that's why your band name was Big Penne. I thought that was.
The problem is it's false advertising, but whatever.
But it's a funny double entendre. So what was the question? Why does penne suck?
How does one get their pasta in a pizzeria?
So cascatelli is made. The original version is made by a pasta company called Sfollini. They do great artisanal pasta. They're based in upstate New York. In the New York area, they're in Whole Foods. You can order online. There are a lot of other places, a lot of boutique like places. And they're also like distributed through food distributors. So there's some restaurants that serve cascatelli. So,
but each handmade in a sweatshop in China is what I was reading, right? So every single.
That's right. That's why our prices are about to double thanks to these tariffs.
I know. You guys got screwed.
Yeah.
I think that's going to lead to you. Maybe your best bet is probably going to be to go to the Ceres guys, the 11 Madison Park vets, because they'll with their $45 or $60, however it's up to at this point, pie. They could. That's a natural segue there for your tariffed cascatelli.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so in theory, any pizzeria that wants to put cascatelli could order it from Sfollini or through a distributor and put it on their pizza.
Well, I think that should be another goal. Obviously, that makes nothing but sense. But you don't like penne, but do you enjoy those slices? I know a lot of people don't even try them because they're, I don't know, intimidating or look ridiculous.
I've had a bite here and there because my kids are obsessed with them, and my kids love pasta, they love pizza, so the idea that these two things could be combined is very amazing to them.
Still amazing to me.
Yeah. If I'm in the right mood, maybe I would get one, but I'll have a bite of my kids. But one of my general pet peeves with pizza, and I think this is another hot take, but I think you will probably agree with this, is a really good pizza should not have many toppings. More is not better when it comes to toppings. If you have a thin crust, most toppings release some amount of liquid when they go into the oven, so whether it's water or fat. And so a little bit of that can be good, but too much is going to turn your crust soggy. It shouldn't be this gigantic, a triangular hoagie. You want one meat, there should never be two meats on a pizza. One meat is enough. One meat or one veggie, maybe two. I don't think you ever need more than like two toppings. Like if you're not, maybe I wouldn't count a drizzle or basil as a topping, but kind of like you just need a couple toppings. If everything else is good, that's all you need.
I think it's good to judge a pizzeria by their cheese, by their plain. I think that's your first slice should almost always, for me, be a cheese. But I don't know. I have my controversial take is that I've admitted to myself that my favorite combination is chicken cutlet, onions, and green peppers. I think that is a phenomenal pizza. I think I think once someone's had that, it's hard to go back.
That sounds really good. I love chicken cutlet. I love chicken parm. I will order a chicken parm slice sometimes. Mm-hmm. I find though that it's often not as good as I hoped because they cook the chicken, then they dice it up and put it on top of the pizza. And then they reheat the pizza. So first of all, when you take a chicken breast and dice it up and let it sit, it's going to dry out. And then you put it back in the oven. Now you're drying it out even further. So to me, it's just sort of like I'd rather have a chicken parm calzone where the whole thing is cooked together, or like what they call like a chicken pop or a stuffed slice. It's to me is like a calzone, but it's like it's rolled and the chicken and the sauce and the cheese are all inside, and then you don't have that drying issue.
What's the difference between that in your mind and a stromboli? Is it the same thing?
I think it's the same thing. Yeah, I think these are just like it's just like in Italy where they have like 5 different words for the same. Like there are 300 to 400 known pasta shapes and 1,200 names for pasta shapes. This is according to the Encyclopedia of Pasta, which is sort of the seminal work on the subject. So Italians, it's like in Boston where you're driving on a road and you just keep going straight and the road has 4 different names. Like every 3 blocks, it's a new name, but you haven't turned. That's sort of like Italian food.
What do you think? Because I also want to talk to you because, obviously you're in the food world, but I'm always selfishly curious about you as the podcaster. So I'm wondering, is there a type of food or a subject in food that you think is the most difficult to discuss, or something that maybe is easier to avoid, but is sort of a challenge for you to talk about?
There are certain things that are too visual. That being said, like often people will say to me, how can you do a food podcast in audio? Like food is so visual.
Yeah.
And to me, like 99% of the time, I disagree with that. I think that like audio is a great medium for food because what I love about audio is that it's inherently interactive. Mm-hmm. So you're listening to people talk, you're imagining what they look like. And when they start describing something or telling you a story, you imagine the story in your head. So if I start describing a pizza to you, every one of your listeners is going to have a slightly different image in their head that they themselves generated. And it's going to be that much more vivid. It's going to be somehow connected to their own experience. And, all the time I hear from listeners who are like, I just went for a walk listening to your show and I just came home and I'm starving.
Yeah.
But with that said, occasionally there are things that I'm just like, this is too visual and I don't know how we can talk about it. Like we talked about doing something with a butcher, like who's going to talk about like the technique of butchering. And like, sure, we could tell a great story about a family butcher and whatever, but like if you want to sort of describe to someone like what exactly is pork shoulder versus pork butt and where is it coming from, and you kind of need to see what a pig. You got to be looking at a pig when somebody explains that to you. So there are certain things like that I think become challenging.
One thing to stay on the topic of sort of the culture around covering this stuff. I noticed that you guys did like a look back on 2023 and the top food stories. There is and I believe that the episode was even titled something about foodie bros and this sort of culture of, I think we all know it, the aggressive alpha, for lack of a better term, influence that a lot of, especially right now, pizza is having through various people. And we're asked about it off the air a lot. And I have about 1,000 opinions on it, but we don't really tackle it. We don't really go after this topic at all, unless it's brought up by like the guest. But where do you think that bro culture is now, and where do you see it going in the future?
That's interesting. So well, I want to ask you. So you get asked about it a lot. Is this sort of like Barstool adjacent?
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Right.
Because of
you must love Portnoy. You must you must. What do you think of One Bite? Oh, that's the first thing. It's like One Bite, and you're like, no, it's yeah.
Have you ever gotten Portnoy on the show? You should get It's like it's frustrating, but but I have my own reasons for it, and I also understand that. It's a tough topic. We've talked about this a lot because I think a lot of people in the industry are scared to say certain things because of the sort of weaponization of social media that entire culture has. Maybe that's a little less now, but that was my introduction to that even company before I even thought about the pizza stuff, was just sort of like the vindictive quality of their media strategy. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have always been very turned off by anyone who sort of uses food as status. Sure, like if you have a restaurant recommendation, I'd love to hear it. I always want to know where I should be eating. But like when the conversation becomes like, oh, have you been to this place? Oh, have you been to that place? I went to that place. No one can get in there. It's like, shut up. I don't care. And like, and I'm not going to wait for a table either. Like I just don't like. There's too many good places to eat. Yeah. I don't care about being able to put it on Instagram and brag that I went there. But I do think that conflation of food and trendy restaurants with status and sort of knowing about food and having eaten at trendy restaurants being sort of a marker of you being cool or having some kind of special access is something that people who are, very into that sort of a super bro-y culture are going to get very taken with, because it's sort of inherently competitive and it just allows you to try to pretend that you're better than other people. So I find all that really a turnoff, and I don't know if that's ever gonna that will evolve, but it's never gonna go away. Like that's not exactly new. I think sort of what's new is that foodie culture used to be sort of this kind of effete upper crust kind of thing that I but it was sort of like, quote unquote, like, real men don't care about sourcing ingredients from blah blah blah. Like real men drink beer out of cans, and
I've been saying that for years though,
right? And eat frozen pizzas because that's manly. And the idea that now it's sort of like, quote unquote, like manly to sprinkle basil over your pizza is kind of hilarious. But I'm sure I imagine it'll be something different a year or two from now. What do you think, Arthur?
That's kind of where I wanted to go, because when you talked about this, you talked a little bit about where it really started out in 2010 maybe, or thereabouts, and then the bro culture was really kind of surrounded like the bacon and like that aspect of stuff, and we had the hunting guy that went out and did that kind of thing, and it's kind of transformed. I think obviously we've got two ranges of the spectrum now, where you've got the finance bros and the omakases that it costs, $400, $600 or whatever it is. And on the other end, you have them coming for pizza. So you've got the dollar slice, or you've got, the slice culture aspect of stuff now. So I guess I'm wondering, like, if we're looking over the long term, without even putting any judgment on it, just from purely like a food trend forecasting kind of perspective, because you've been doing this and you kind of see how things change over the years. Where do you see things in 5 years? I mean, where do you see that kind of manliness, tackling food within the next 5 years? I don't know. Obviously, like, I don't have a crystal ball. I know you don't. I'm not expecting you to either, but I'm always interested to get that kind of insight and perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing I would say is that food has become a bigger and bigger part of culture. Really going back, I mean, you can go all the way back to Julia Child, or certainly since like the advent of Food Network and the idea of the celebrity chef. Being a chef was not glamorous 50 years ago. Now there's all this glitz and glamour around the idea of being a chef, and all this cachet around restaurants and restaurant culture. And so as food has become a bigger and bigger part of the broader culture, I think it's natural that it has morphed into different sort of subgenres. So that's kind of what you're saying, Arthur, is like, it's not just, French restaurants in Manhattan. It's a million different things. So yes, it's true that there's this big bro culture around, getting off on spending $600 on dinner or eating one bite of pizza and having an opinion about it and thinking your opinion is the best. But at the same time, there's also been huge growth in totally other areas. Like I love that Ann Kim is making pizza in Minneapolis with kimchi on it. That's awesome. And now has some of her pizzas are in Target. So now this thing that she started in Minneapolis is now crossing over and going nationwide. That's also something that's happened in pizza in recent years. So it's not like it's expand food and pizza by association is just going to be expanding everywhere and be part of everything. And some of the directions it's going to go in are going to be more exciting for us than others. So, I think that I don't think pizza's going anywhere though. I think pizza's got a pretty firm grip on the culture. I don't think you have to worry.
On that note, I want to put myself on the couch a little bit here and use you a little bit as to help me work my way through my own pizza issues here, if you don't mind.
I'm here for you, Arthur.
I feel like you may have some perspective for me here because circling back to something that you said earlier, you were talking about how, the pizza nerds, people talking about the hydration and whatnot. And, I feel like I've seen this a couple of times and I may be taking something personally because I have specialized in something to this ridiculous degree. But Helen Rosner wrote in the New Yorker, pizza nerds are the worst kinds of food nerds. And, Pete Wells has made kind of offhand comments in the New York Times about people that kind of focus on pizza. You're somebody who has focused on pasta, one food. I feel like I don't see that same kind of brushback against pasta. I'm wondering, do you sometimes catch glimpses of that kind of stuff? Or do you feel like the pizza nerd really is has completely lost their mind and is lost in the weeds of the hydration and whatnot?
Well, Arthur, before I answer your question, let's do a little exercise here together. Imagine that sitting before you is no longer me, that I am sort of an amalgam of Helen Rosner and Pete Wells and some of the other people in food media. I should just do this with ChatGPT is what you're telling me. No, I'm just teasing. I'm one of these people who has put down pizza nerds. What do you want to say to me? Let it out.
I would say something like, well, how come chicken tenders are okay to fixate on and write a piece that gets nominated for a James Beard Award? I don't know. I would say that. I mean, I feel like that's exactly what I kind of would respond with. I see other things that get fixated on in that way that don't get that kind of you're talking about chicken tenders? I don't know.
See, I'm getting a lot of Oedipal issues right now. That's what I'm getting right now. So I don't know if you're picking that up, Dan.
Yeah, 100%.
It's pretty glaring.
Yeah. So tell us about your parents, Arthur.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you told us enough.
Yeah. I feel for you, Arthur. There aren't many obsessions that have as many people who are known for being obsessed. I mean, not that there are even so many pizza nerds, but the fact that there are even maybe 5 or 10 pizza nerds in America that are the preeminent, you're one of a group of 5 or 10. I don't know that there's any other pasta nerds. There are a lot of pasta chefs. And I'm not saying that makes me better. I'm just saying that it actually makes me less of a target because it doesn't seem like there's so many of me. And yes, Helen wrote one piece about chicken tenders, which was really phenomenal, but it's not like there's this whole sort of cottage industry of books coming out on a quarterly basis about chicken tenders. So I do feel like pizza gets more attention and coverage. Yeah. It's more ubiquitous. That being said, I don't think that it's fair to make fun of pizza nerds. I mean, love.
It's fine. I'm just curious. I'm just looking for the perspective of somebody who has focused on a single. Not that that's the only thing you've done, but you've definitely dove deep on a subject.
I think that. But I love people who do that. That's why I love what you guys do. That's why I love Scott Wiener at Scott's Pizza Tours. Yeah. Anytime I meet anyone, it doesn't even have to be food. I love talking to people who are really, really passionate about something and know a ton about it. And whatever that is, anyone when they can share that passion with you, it's interesting. And so, I think that I think the world is just great as it is with the pizza nerds out there. I think that it's interesting. I think that sometimes when people are very knowledgeable, some people, and they're just passionate about this thing that they love, it gets read as, you think you're better than me. You think you're so great because you know about hydration, and now you're not sharing your passion, you're lecturing me. And I don't want to be lectured by some pencil neck pizza nerd. And I think that's sort of an ungenerous way to look at it. And I instead choose to see the passion that has captivated you, Arthur, or Scott, or people in other parts, and for Alfred and me, more like in the world of audio and podcasting. It's like whatever it is that you're passionate about, like I think that's cool.
I'm going to get myself up off the couch and thank you very much. Right. My time is up. I know that.
All right.
It was certainly interesting what we learned, Arthur.
That'll be $680.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to follow up with you on something else that we have started talking about a lot on this show. Alfred keeps bringing it up, so I'm going to continue the trend. Because you've mentioned calzones. I feel like do you have any thoughts about the proper way of eating a calzone when sauce comes into play? I have posited that there are 3 ways to engage with sauce in a calzone: dip, sip, or pour.
Okay.
I'm not judging anybody for how they like to do it, but I'm wondering if you have thoughts about how to eat a calzone with sauce.
So I should say, first off, the calzone, you were saying earlier, like, oh, well, is it different from like stromboli or a chicken pop or a stuffed slice? I didn't grow up necessarily eating a lot of calzones in New Jersey. I had a lot when I went to college in Boston, and there it's sort of more like we took a pizza and folded it over.
Right.
Whereas like in kind of old Italian neighborhoods in the New York area, calzone is something more light and it has like ricotta on the inside. It's very different. Yep. So what kind of calzone?
I'm talking about the calzone, the latter, the calzones that are filled with ricotta, overfilling. If they're sliced open, they're spilling almost right away. And so, what is the best way to engage with the sauce in that situation? I don't have a right answer here, by the way. Yeah. I'm going to go out there and say I'm looking for this is what I do when I'm just eating by myself or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. In general, in eating, and this is true for me with sandwiches, burgers, hot dogs, calzones, I love having a dip on the side and dipping. I'm a big proponent of dipping.
Big dipper.
And the reason why, like for a cheeseburger, I will never put condiments on top of the burger. I will make a little pool on the side, and I will dip my burger into usually it's about half and half ketchup and mustard. I will dip as I go. And but same thing, like if I'm going to get a calzone or like a chicken pop, which is like chicken parm in a pizza dough folded over, I will always want sauce on the side to dip. And dipping has a few advantages. First of all, it puts less liquid inside the thing, and the liquid is going to make it unwieldy. It's going to make it soggy. It's going to make it messy. So the food you're eating is going to deteriorate faster if it's filled with too much sauce and liquid. The other advantage to dipping is that it allows you to manage your ratio between dipper and dipped item and dip on a per bite basis. You want to really dunk this piece and get a lot of sauce? You can. You want one with no sauce? You can. It allows you to manage and craft every bite to your liking, so you have a lot more control. And then you also can choose exactly where in that bite that you've torn off or cut to apply the dip. So, you could rip off a little piece of that calzone, and I would probably kind of like just pinch and fold. Like it's going to get messy. First of all, just accept that it's going to be messy. I wouldn't even try to do it neatly. And then I would dip, because then you kind of you also could, if you get the sauce on the outside and then you kind of hit that crispy exterior and then you have the cheese on the inside, if you can kind of keep it together to get that bite, that's going to be a really phenomenal bite.
There you go.
I just wish you had a thoughtful response. You're a communicator, and I just feel like it would have been nice to get, something better
just
than
put a little
monosyllabic one-word response, but whatever.
So speaking of which, in the interests of time, we're going to wrap up, but I do want to ask you a couple of quick fire questions. Yes or no, whatever you...
They're really quick, let's be honest.
All right.
I'll do my best.
Right. Will you wait for a fresh pie? You go into the slice shop and you see what's in the display. Will you take that, or will you wait for a fresh pie for a slice?
I will usually wait. If I have a few minutes, yes. Like if I know it's in the oven, I would wait for a fresh pie.
Blot or not?
I used to blot more. Now I blot less. But I do blot a little bit sometimes. It depends on the slice. If I see if it's a shredded cheese, like if the oil on top is like olive oil that's been drizzled, then no. But if it's shredded cheese and it's just like cheese oil, and if it looks very oily, then I will blot a little bit, but not with the goal of removing all the oil.
I feel like food people rarely admit to blotting, so that was interesting. Marking that down.
As that relates to something, this is a little bit longer than these questions, but as that relates to the 14,000 calories you eat with your kids, does that correlate? I mean, does that gone down, the amount of calories that you're eating with your kids as they've gotten older, or is it about the same?
Probably less because my kids are older. They eat more meals out of the house.
Okay.
And so I feel like, when the kids are little, you're just constantly preparing food for them. So there's just constantly food in front of you. So I just felt like I was constantly eating. Whereas now, like, they're in school all day and sometimes they're out with their friends or they're walking into town. So
Got it.
Yeah. Do you guys blot?
I don't.
I do sometimes.
No, Arthur, you would never blot?
I'm going to have pizza. I want to eat the pizza. I like the oil. I don't know. I'll pour more oil.
So are you judging
Stinger
my case?
oil, or I go to Colony or Rico's or whatever. I'm pouring more oil onto my pizza. I don't know.
Right. So are you judging Alfred and me for blotting?
Yes.
Oh, I judge Alfred all the time, but he does the same to me. So best way to
That's the problem with all you pizza nerds.
Exactly. There you go. Best way to
Getting
dress in
bullied
New
over
York.
here. He's such a pizza bro.
Right.
Best way to dress a New York slice: parm, oregano, garlic, red pepper flakes. Nothing.
I would usually go nothing.
Okay.
I will sometimes do red pepper flakes when I'm in the mood for a little kick. I would not do the oregano. As much as I love herbaceous flavors in general, I don't love a super herby pizza. I actually prefer an uncooked tomato sauce. I like the fresh tomato flavor over the sort of like Sunday gravy stewed tomato flavor. So I like a fresh, bright flavor, not that sort of like thick herbaceousness.
White slice, yes or no?
Rarely. Once in a while, I just find myself in the mood, but it's got to have something acidic. That one has to have pepper and or lemon. It's got to have something to cut the cheese, to do what the tomato sauce would normally be doing. And so, yeah, I feel like once in a while, I'm just in the mood for a mouthful of cheese and I'll go for it, but it's got to have crushed red pepper on it.
Is ranch okay on pizza?
Like I said, I'm not going to yuck someone's yum. I haven't done it much, but yeah, I think that it's okay. It's certainly enough people out there doing it. It couldn't be totally wrong.
Is there a way that you eat pizza alone that you wouldn't do with other people?
I mean, I'm pretty shameless. So, like, in terms of making a fool of myself or a mess of myself, that's not something that I'm too concerned about doing in front of others. I might tear off a piece of the crust very early on in eating the pie, which I wouldn't mind doing in front of someone else, but I feel like when I'm in a social situation, I kind of just fold the slice and eat it while I'm chatting. Just the other day, I was by myself having a slice, and I like tore a piece of the crust off to eat it solo.
Is there a topping you don't like?
I don't like too many toppings in general, as I said. I don't love sausage because it's just so fatty, and I feel like it releases way too much oil. I don't love meat in general. If I'm going to have meat, it would probably be pepperoni. I mean, I don't love meat in general on pizza. I don't love spinach. I like spinach in general, not on pizza. I love mushrooms, pepperoni, spicy bits. That's kind of all I need, and I don't really want a whole lot else.
Is there anything about pizza that makes you mad?
Pizzas with too many toppings. I know I said that before, but like when I see that, when I see someone else, when I even see that in the glass case at the pizzeria, they got one of these things with the spinach and the broccoli and the peppers and the sausage and the hamburger, and it just looks gross. And I'm like, some poor schmo is going to order that, and it's going to disintegrate before they're halfway done.
Broccoli's no business being on a pizza too. It's just like, it's
and I love broccoli.
Yeah,
I love me some broccoli. Yeah.
Do you judge people who leave behind pizza bones, or do you leave them behind yourself?
I almost never leave them behind. It depends on, like, if it's really sort of like a very average pizza, which to me is still good, and I'm not super hungry, then I might leave them behind, or then I guess I wouldn't judge people. But the people who are just like, I don't eat the crust. Like, you don't eat good bread? Like, you don't like fresh bread? Who doesn't like fresh bread? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand it.
How do you like to reheat a slice?
Usually I put it in a nonstick pan, heat up the pan a bit, put it in the pan cheese side down first to get the cheese melty and release some oil, and then flip it and crust side down to finish crisping.
Love it. And last question for me, two-parter: pizza burger, pizza bagel. Yes, no.
I don't think that the pizza burger really works. I feel like it's actually kind of an older example of something that's becoming a bigger problem in food culture, which is like just mashing up two things that are better on their own. A pizza bagel can be very good if you do it just right. That being said, I don't think I would ever take a pizza bagel over, like, I would rather have good pizza or a great bagel with cream cheese over a pizza bagel. But as between the two, I would take a pizza bagel over a pizza burger.
A bee just fell down from
I was wondering why you were looking up at the
and
ceiling.
landed
You were
on my
thinking about a
keyboard.
great big last
It
thought
just jumped.
here.
It's dead now.
I know it's alive, but moving slowly. So I have to figure out how, and it's on my keyboard. I don't know what's going to happen here. So I like to end it with the perfect slice, your perfect slice, what's on it, and where are you getting it from?
Ooh. I mean, if it's a slice shop, I would say Lucello in Green Lawn, New York, where they're going to, and I would want, I mean, I love their margarita, but I also love a slice with mushrooms and olives. So Lucello margarita would be like one of my perfect. My other one would be like a slice from somewhere else with canned mushrooms.
Controversial.
But, yes, but fresh, good olives. So like bad mushrooms, good olives. That's the combo you want, because the canned mushrooms have this meatiness that is so good on pizza. But I don't like the sliced black olives. I want like Castelvetrano olives, like torn in half and put on top of the pizza.
Alfred, this is ending with a very controversial opinion about canned mushrooms. We rarely get the advocate for the canned mushrooms, which I love to hear it.
You know, when I lived in Boston, I lived across the street from a 24-hour late night pizza place called like House of Steve's Pizza on Boylston. And they had these gigantic slices. It was very much like a late night place. And they only made cheese pies. And then if you wanted a topping on a slice, they would just take it out and put it on and then put that in the oven. So if you asked for a mushroom slice, they would take a cheese slice that had been cooked and put a giant fistful of canned mushrooms on it and then put it in the oven for a minute. And those slices were phenomenal.
That's Alfred's nightmare.
Yeah, I know. Olives and mushrooms I can't do on pizza for some reason.
I love it.
I have a problem with it. Well, Dan, thanks so much, man. Thanks for coming on and doing this. It's fun having someone who's in not only the podcast industry, but also the food industry. So thanks a lot for doing this. And if there's any, now I always try to give someone an outlet, like tell us one more thing, because you don't get an opportunity to talk about this. You do have an opportunity to talk about pizza anytime you want. But if there's anything you want to get off your chest, pizza-wise,
if we can reciprocate to give you the opportunity to be on the couch for a second to indulge after you're done.
You brought up, Arthur, in the beginning that I have advocated the inside-out pizza fold.
Yes.
And I would like to say a couple of things about that for clarification. One is, you don't have to do it all the time. I'm not saying it's necessarily better, but it is different. It doesn't work if you have a ton of toppings or even more than one. But like, I think that every pizza lover should try folding a slice inside out, because I think it is instructive that of how multifaceted pizza can be. It's a very different experience, very different. And I just think that there's a lot of pleasure in like realizing that some very basic food that you've eaten 100 million times could be transformed by doing something so simple.
It's interesting because it reminds me of when Roy Wood Jr. told us his son eats a slice upside down. It seems like a sort of a similar kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Cheese. You put the cheese on your tongue, it's going to accentuate the cheese.
I'll try it. I got to try it.
Since we talked to Roy Wood Jr. a year and a half ago, have you ever tried it?
Oh, I did try it. I think I did try it, and then I'll try this. I'll figure it out. I mean, I'm a traditionalist, though, at the end of the day. So
right.
Those breaking of traditions scare me. So, Dan, thanks so much, man. This was a lot of fun. Really appreciate it.
Thanks
for coming on the show, man.
It was my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Attention, everyone, coast to coast, and all the ships at sea.
It's time for pizza news.
I'm not going to tell you about the pizza delivery pranks being played on federal judges designed to intimidate them into not challenging the policies of this White House in court, or the ridiculous study by Maine Lobster Now reported on by the New York Post that used data from Google searches and the average price of pizza in each state to determine that New Hampshire is the ultimate destination for pizza lovers. Because if you've had pizza in New Hampshire, as I have, you would know that that is just dumb. And that's a bad word in my household, but there you go. Instead, let's talk about the most recent shameless brand mashup collaboration.
So you're not going to talk about stuff that you end up talking about, right? Is that exactly. Just want to make sure? Okay.
That's my way of sneaking in extra stories under the radar without you giving me a hard time about it. Yeah.
Just want to clarify. Sure. Go ahead.
So Palermo Villa Inc. and Cullenova have collaborated to bring Cheez-It frozen pizza to life. A 12-inch ultra thin and crispy original Cheez-It flavored crust with pizza toppings. Did you do the Cheez-It Crunch Wrap? Did you ever get over to Taco Bell? Do you love or hate Taco Bell? I can't remember.
I don't mind Taco Bell, but I haven't been to one in a long time. Yeah.
Okay.
But, so I haven't done that.
I thought that was horrible, but I would go try this anyway. Thank you, Food Engineering. And if you thought the shameless brand mashup stuff stops there, Food Dive reports that sauce maker Ragu is entering a new section of the grocery store with a line of frozen pizzas. The nearly 90-year-old sauce brand is joining with frozen pizza maker Palermo Via. Does Pope Leo like deep dish? That's the question that's been coming up since we learned that we have an American Pope for the first time in 2,000 years because, well, shouldn't pizza just be communion after all? Eater notes that the Tribune did uncover one food-related papal nugget. When Pope Leo is back home, he visits Aurelio's Pizza. Ironic, because as I understand it, the city's only Aurelio's Pizza location at 1212 South Michigan Ave is done this May when the current lease ends. That according to WGN-TV. Do you have any Poperoni comments about the Pope pizza related?
I'm just excited we have a Bulls, Bears, Sox fan as Pope. Pretty cool stuff.
F&F Pizzeria, your old haunting grounds in Brooklyn, is teaming up with pizza makers for a new collaboration dinner series this spring and summer. It kicks off with Christian Petroni of Petroni Foods in New York and Mark Iacono of Brooklyn Lucali. Subsequent events include Argentina-based restaurant Te Amo Pizzeria's Carola and Victoria Santoro. Looks like Arizona-based pizzeria Bianco's Chris Bianco, involved with the project from the outset, will be involved, and Williamsburg's Best Pizza Frank Pignolo. I'm more intrigued by Montreal restaurant Elena's Ryan Gray and New Jersey pizzeria Razza's Dan Richer. Pizzeria Vetri's Mark Vetri will also participate. There's a $175 ticket that includes food, wine, beer, and cocktails with a timed entry.
Today's topic is
The Winking Pizza Chef. At last count, our friend Scott Wiener was the Guinness World Records holder for the largest pizza box collection, over 2,000. His book, Viva la Pizza, The Art of the Pizza Box, is next-level pizza nerdism, explaining how they're made, designed, fluted for strength, and used to advertise. Operators began using box tops for marketing in the 1960s. One fun mystery Scott tackles in his book was the origins of the winking pizza chef. You know, with the OK or chef's kiss, Wiener traces him to at least as early as a hand-painted version copied from a now-forgotten source, propped atop Schawler's Drive-In in Rochester, New York in 1956. This is a quote, "Crossover into the pizza world likely happened when delivery drove demand for printed marketing materials. In the 1970s, he writes, to lower costs, pizzerias opted for royalty-free stock images. So, who's the man behind the face? Nobody really knows."
Fun. Well, thanks so much for listening today. Fun, very food-heavy episode. Make sure to follow our guests on social media. Now, when I realize I re-listen to past episodes and I say, follow them on their social media garbage. I'm not talking about their garbage. Like, their feeds aren't garbage. I'm saying social media is garbage.
Is this something that somebody complained to you about?
No, I just noticed myself saying that, and I thought, does that sound bad? No, follow them. Their feeds are wonderful. Every single guest has a wonderful feed. Whatever their feed of choice is. It's just social media as an entity is garbage. So, and I guess follow us on that same garbage too, because our feeds are just
wonder why
wonderful.
The algorithm isn't rewarding you, Alfred.
Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter. He's Alfred Schultz. There's no T in Schultz. I'm Arthur Bovino at NYC Best Pizza. Follow the show at Pizza Pod Party. Follow Dan Pashman on Instagram and Twitter at The Sporkful. And remember, a great pie is one you're already thinking about having again before you finish the first slice.
See you soon.
The Pizza Pod Party. Please rate and review the podcast. The Pizza Pod Party is hosted by Arthur Bovino and Alfred Schultz. Produced by Arthur Bovino and Alfred Schultz. Created by Arthur Bovino and Alfred Schultz. Researched by Arthur Bovino. Engineered, edited, and mixed by Alfred Schultz. Voiced by the fabulous Holly Palmieri.